Okay, this is the first video tutorial for Photoshop that I have, and I call it the name design tutorial. You're going to download this template. Make sure you have the name design template. Excuse me. The blue lines here are guides, and I put them in there in order for you to lay out your design properly. There's a few tools that you need to know. The first one is the Move tool. The next one is the Type tool. There's the Brush tool and the Rectangle tool. So I'm going to start with the Rectangle tool, and I'll click that. And I need to grab a color. So these two swatches here, the white and the black, are the foreground and the background color. I'm going to set my foreground color, and I'll just pick a color. I gotta make sure I click in this area though. That's the previous color, that's the color I'm going for. I'll click OK, and clicking on my rectangle tool, making sure that I have this first button selected right here. Shape layers. Not paths, but shape layers. I'm going to click and drag, and notice that I started right off the stage. I'm going to drag right off the stage and make sure that my rectangle goes right to the edge, visually anyways. If I grab my Move tool, I can now move my rectangle around, and I can place it in different locations. I'm gonna not place it right in the center of my stage, but I'll bring it down just a little bit around there. Your location is completely up to you. This is the center of the stage, and what I want you to do is make sure that you keep your brush work below this line and above this line. Next thing I'm going to do is get my name up there, and I'm just going to go back to my default colors, and I can click this small black and white swatch, and I'll grab the text tool, the type tool, pardon me. And I'm just going to click over here. Single click, don't click and drag. Single click, and I'm going to type my last name. And I'm going to type it in all caps. And notice that it went off the stage, but that's okay. I'm going to do a Control A and highlight everything, and then just change the size. So I could change it this method, or I could click right here and change by dragging. So click and drag. Something like that, that's good. Get my Move tool, and I'll move this over here, right around there. I could certainly center it inside of my rectangle if I wanted to, but I'm actually just going to spill it outside for now. And if this center line is in your way, you can certainly move it out of the way. So if you click on it, I'm going to drag it right back off, back up into the ruler, and let it go. Now I need to use the Type tool again, and I'm going to type my first name. I'm going to double click and select it all, and I'm going to change this to regular, because if I use this typeface called Century Gothic, it's got a bold and a regular, and it's quite bolded, so there's quite a difference between the thickness of this type compared to this type, and I want to have contrast between my first name and my last name. Next thing I'm going to do is get my brush tool, which is right here. Make sure you don't use this one. Use this one right here, the brush tool, and I'll click, and what I'm going to do is find myself another brush. But before I do that, notice that there's the do not do symbol, and that means I can't paint with a brush on this layer. So I have to create a new layer. So I'll create a new layer. There it is right there. I'm going to double click that. I'm going to call it brush 1, and I'm going to get myself a color, and in this case maybe something like that. Complement your color to blue, and I'm going to hit this drop down arrow right here, This will allow me to change the size of my brush, but it will also allow me to change the look of my brush. But this is just a bland brush set, and I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to look for some other brushes. You don't have brushes installed on the computer itself, so what you need to do is load brushes, and you're going to have to load the brushes from the Q drive. So you click load brushes and load them from the Q drive, and I'll write the location on the board. But I'm just going to grab one of these brushes. I kind of like these Axe Raider 70 brushes, so I'll click OK and click OK here. And that's what these look like, kind of like this style right here. And what I'm going to do is click in the center of my stage, like that. Just a single click. I can certainly paint, but in this case, I'm just going to click. And since I clicked in the middle of the stage, I get the entire brush. It's not going to be cut off, but if I want it cut off, I could certainly do that. And I'm going to arrange it because I want my brushwork to be around here and have it draw the eye down towards my name right there. That looks pretty good. I'm actually going to create another brush, and this time I'm going to use white. I'll find a different brush, and you could certainly load another brush, but I'm going to go with this one right here. See what that looks like. That doesn't look too bad. I'm going to bump the size down a little bit though, so that it's between my guides, like so. But I certainly want to have a new layer. And then I'm going to click. Not too bad. Looks pretty good. Grab my move tool. I can move it around. I can rearrange my layers so that it's below. And the other thing I'm going to do is go down here to effects. And I'm going to add a drop shadow to that brush. And you'll see what sort of difference I can make with it. So it kind of looks like that right there. Click OK. Now I've got some depth and some contrast between the background. Obviously the white on white certainly has contrasted. And for my text, I'm going to do something along those same lines. I can go down here and I can add a stroke, but not that color, and not that size either. That's a little too big. Even 1 point stroke is good, and a drop shadow. And I can right click on effects and go to copy layer style, go down here to my second type layer and paste the layer style by right clicking. Left click on layer style, paste, and I've got myself some contrast. There we go. Now I'll probably go back here and add some more brushwork, which you certainly can do. I'm probably going to add a third layer to this work, but right now I'm pretty happy with it. I could do the same thing with my rectangle, add a stroke and a drop shadow if I wanted to, or I could leave it flat looking. That's up to you. But what you want to do is create a couple of different designs and then submit your best one.